have it recorded for everybody. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just pop you on mute, not because I don't want to hear your lovely voices, but because if somebody walks in or it just gets a little bit distracting, and especially when we go into the meditation bit, if a dog starts barking or something, that way it just stays silent. But if you need to chat to me, just pop yourself off of mute. If you're not sure where the mute is, it's for most people, the left-hand corner. So I'm actually going to shut my door because I've got a big dog and he might run in. Alrighty, so what I want you to do, I'm actually going to chat to you for a little bit, which hopefully won't be too boring. If you are someone who loves to take notes, if you need something to do with your hands, feel free to take notes. My meditators, this might be, repetition. It might be something new. If you want to lie down and listen to me, that's fine. I'll probably chat for about 10 minutes and then we'll practice. I think I've got 4 or 5 different styles of meditation that I want us to have a little play with. Okay, so I guess my first question is why do we practice meditation? And by question, I mean more rhetorical. And some of you who do practice meditation, you might know the answer. Some of you who've never practiced meditation, you might be like, I have no idea. Some of you who do practice meditation, you might be like, I don't exactly know why. I know that I kind of like it, but I don't really know what it's doing. Essentially, it's a really big question, isn't it? And for some of you, sitting there doing nothing, especially if you're a busy person, can be really counterintuitive. There's no point. And this is kind of fairly accurate, not no point, but the sitting there doing nothing, okay? Meditation is essentially sitting there. And it's essentially working on the skill of just to be, okay? And I think, we, for the most part, are so busy or preoccupied that we forget to be. And we're really often removed from just being with ourselves, and it can feel very foreign. I don't know if any of you have had your phone get broken, or you have to send it away, or your internet goes down and you have this twitch. If you're sitting for a moment of stillness and you have this twitch to pick something up or do something. And it's essentially meditation is working to kind of control that twitch. And a really easy way to start working on some of these skills is the next time that you're waiting at the doctor's, the next time that you're waiting for a delivery, or you're at the grocery store in a queue. I want you to see if you can avoid picking up your phone. And maybe you're not a phone person. Maybe you're a magazine person or a book person, or you listen to podcasts. Maybe you watch loads of TV. Can you just, maybe for 10 minutes, or maybe for the time that you're waiting at the grocery store, can you just be? Not picking up anything, not kind of cruising with your eyes, looking for something to distract you, and just see what that feels like. And I think tuning into the level of discomfort that might give you is quite interesting. Meditation can be super uncomfortable at the beginning. It can be really difficult and it can be frustrating. And I think, it's important to know that you're not going to be a meditating wizard by the end of this 8 weeks. But hopefully you will have developed a couple of skills. So there are 2 main types of meditation. You might have heard meditation and mindfulness. Okay, so those are kind of the 2 avenues, but you might not know what they're called. Okay, so one is about concentration. And what is meditation? So concentration is dhyana, and this means single pointedness. Okay, so focusing on one thing, which I think is challenging for everyone. It's the idea of limiting what's happening in your mind. So it's that classic Buddhist sitting, nothing happening in this level of complete clarity. And that's what this dhyana, this concentration means. And it's training the mind to stay with one thing. You focus on one thing and our mind all of a sudden starts to look for associations. Okay. So a really fun one is you say the word breakfast. Someone's brain might then go to bacon. Then they might think, oh, Kevin Bacon. And then they might think Footloose. And the next thing you know, you're kicking off your Sunday shoes and you're singing the song in your head. And you don't really know how you started getting that song in your head, but it all started with this idea of breakfast. Okay. So this level of creativity, it's not bad. This is the wonderful kind of vastness of our brains. but we do want to have some control of it, okay? And we want to be able to have this level of concentration to focus on one thing. If you're someone who likes to read, you know, how often are you reading and you turn the page and you literally can't remember what you've been reading? Or if you're driving and, you know, you're suddenly home and you're like, oh my God, I literally don't remember the last 10 minutes of my drive. I think, you know, those things have all happened to us. So you're watching a show, especially like one where you have to really pay attention, and all of a sudden they're like announcing a new lead in a crime investigation series and you're like, what? How did that happen? And you're literally like, it's because I wasn't paying attention and I missed the clue somewhere in the show. And you know, this really works for studying. Okay. None of us, I don't think, are students at this moment in time. Actually, my parents are learning Spanish, so that will work for them. So concentration really helps with this, okay? So the second style is mindfulness or Vipassana. So you might have heard the word Vipassana. And it's allowing the mind to just be open to the now, observing the present, observing what arises without conflict, without judgment, okay, without argument. And again, this can be really difficult. Things like imposter syndrome, things like the critical mind. If you're someone who is a naturally judgy person, just watching things and constantly analyzing, if you are an analytical person, your brain is going to be constantly doing this. And as you observe things, your mind wanders. Okay, so Vipassana, this mindfulness helps you to stay more present. So this concentration gives you the capacity to control your mind, which cultivates the skill to stay focused on and away from the wandering. Okay, these two practices complement each other. They're amazing as complements, but they are different. Okay, as I'm going, guys, if you have any questions or you're like, this isn't making sense, do tap it into the conversation bar. Okay. These skills become really crucial for us. They're crucial at the age of like when you're studying, and we do learn some of these things, but I don't think we learn them in such a way that it's, you know, you're learning the skills of meditation. And I think where this is really interesting for everyone nowadays, no matter kind of what age you are, is that our attention has become commodified. Okay. If you've watched some of the documentaries that have come out recently, a really good one is The Social Dilemma. All of these social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, even things like Google, they are vying for our attention, and our attention has a monetary value on it now. And I think when we practice these types of meditation, we are gaining back our autonomy. We're gaining back our control. You know, the scroll, the sort of infinite scroll that we've kind of got into, or, you know, if you're hopping between news, if you like to read the news online. And I think when we start to train our minds with concentration, with meditation, with mindfulness, we're gaining this control back. We're gaining this autonomy, like I said. And you go back into the driver's seat. And I think this is really important. And obviously our yoga practice really helps with this as well. Our meditation is kind of a stilling practice, but the asana, the movement of our yoga practice, does the exact same thing. It brings us back into the driver's seat. It brings us back into our body, and it connects the body and the mind. So, you know, if you do feel like you get distracted really easily, it's not uncommon. Our attention span is shrinking. I think it's less than a goldfish now. And it might even be around less than 7 seconds, which is really sad. And meditation and mindfulness is going to help with this. It's going to help your brain. So on like a really simplistic level, you know, your brain is good. I want to make sure that my brain stays healthy and I do everything for it. Okay, so meditation and mindfulness helps. Let's give it a go. It's more difficult with children now growing up because they have all forms of technology. I think we're all of the age where we maybe didn't grow up with tech, and you know, we were able to kind of use creativity and be bored, but I think being bored doesn't really happen anymore. Another really interesting thing to think about, and this is another relation to children, is children grow up believing in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, all of these things. And then you have that moment as a parent, I don't know this, but I obviously believed in these things, but you have this moment where that reality for the child is taken away from them, like the rug is swept out from underneath their feet. And their whole reality is suddenly turned on its head. And somehow children have the ability to be like, okay, everything I knew and everything that I believed in and everything my parents were telling me and all of these games that my teachers were doing with me, that's not true anymore. And they have a moment of maybe being upset, maybe crying, but then they have this ability to kind of just be like, okay, well, does it mean I still get presents? Does it mean I still get money under my pillow? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? And once they kind of rationalize in their brains, and it happens quite quickly, then they're able to kind of maneuver and this ability to handle these existential crises. Now, as we get older, we hold on to our realities, our things a lot stronger. And when these situations change for us as adults, a lot of us really can't handle it. Okay. And especially things like trauma. And I have unfortunately experienced, with people I know in my life, some really hardcore trauma. And the ability for, I think, someone to, one, deal with that trauma in the moment, and then two, kind of move on with it or move on from it, I think comes down to that kind of coping mechanism that they have both in their emotions and their brain. And meditation and mindfulness really help us with this, especially that being in the now, okay? Just observing things as they are. So you could see this as well as training for trauma or drama, whatever way you want to look at it. And that you were not looking at things as, oh, life is unfair. I feel so angry. Everything's happening to me, like a child having a tantrum on the floor. You're taking in this information, and I'm not saying that this information is always going to be easy. Like sometimes it's going to be really shite and it's going to suck, but you're not attaching to it in a way that you're seeing everything as the end, okay? And that you don't know how to kind of move on from it. And that you can handle when these things happen. Things will change, people will die, sad things are going to happen. That's just our reality. Nothing is permanent. And I think meditation and mindfulness really help us with this, lack of permanence. So this impermanence of life. So just a couple more points and then we're going to practice meditation. I hope you're okay. Meditation brings an intimacy with yourself. And a lot of us have lost that connection, okay? So understanding how your own mind works and also being familiar with how you feel in your life. How are you? Somebody asks how you are and you say fine. And then somebody might push and ask and you're saying, I'm still fine. And there's a chance that some of the closest people around you know you better than yourself. Okay. So I know when I'm starting to get stressed, I start behaving like an absolute idiot. I start like slamming things. I start messing up things. This sometimes happens when people are cooking or cleaning. And, the person that you live with, your wife, your partner, your dog, your pet often can tell when you're stressed. And, they say, are you all right? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. And you're pushing it away because you're not connecting with how you are. And, they know something's wrong because they can read it on you even before you can. So it's this, okay, I'm starting to feel this way. I'm starting to feel stressed. I'm starting to feel annoyed. Maybe I'm going to take a couple breaths and see if I can ground myself again. So meditation creates an intimacy with oneself, but then it also, flip it on its head, it creates a distance from oneself. And you're like, what? Why are we trying to create intimacy? And then we're trying to create distance. So it's the opposite of intimacy, and this idea that you can kind of be like, boom, turn yourself off. And when I teach meditation, I often talk about like going around your brain like it's a big room and turning off the light switches. And just for that time, just turning off, sadness, turning off connection, turning off judgment. And it's this idea of turning off the thoughts and what's annoying you. And it's, practicing this at different times. It's a tool to kind of halt the way you're feeling or what you're thinking. So if life is getting too much, well, I know that in here, I can go to this empty space. I can go to this place where I can just breathe. I can get away from everything. And maybe it's only for 60 seconds, but I can just say, peace out, life. I'm just going to go here for a minute, catch myself, ground myself, and then move on. So, you have these two things that are very different from each other, and you want to make sure that you balance them out, because it can be very tempting if you are really falling in love with this empty space to just switch off from life, switch off from your feelings and just go to this empty space all the time. And if you're always doing that, you're not dealing with yourself. You're not dealing with your emotions or your feelings. So you need to have that intimacy, that checking in at the same time. Okay. So a meditation practice, sometimes people just make up their minds and decide that I'm just not the meditation type. And I hope with some of the things that I've just talked about, you can be like, okay, it kind of makes a bit of sense now. Um, and I want you, even just for the next like 20 minutes, to see if you can just bracket those feelings. Okay, yep, I'm not a meditation type. I tried it before, I didn't like it. Can you just flick that to the side just for the next 20 minutes? And can you just give me this time? Okay, I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm not going to try to turn you into like a complete meditation master. But I want you to just try some techniques, okay? Techniques over today and over the next 8 weeks. And I'm going to put out a spread, a buffet of meditation techniques. And I want you to just kind of taste them all. And some of those techniques, you're going to be like, yeah, that one really tasted good. I'm hungry for more. I'm going to go back for that one. And, if at the end of this 8 weeks, you have one kind of skill that you go to that helps you when, life's really stressful or when you feel like there's a disconnect to yourself, and you just go to that. Okay. So we're going to try, let me just check my notes. I think I've got 4 or 5. 1, 2. Okay. So we're going to try 5 little meditation techniques. We're not going to spend ages on them. This is going to be just like a try it out, little taster. Is everybody okay? Yeah? Does it all make sense? Awesome. Cool. All righty. So what I want you to do, and actually you don't even really need to see me. So get yourself nice and comfy. So I'm sitting on a bolster. I brought my bum pillow because I often meditate on this because I think it's quite cute and I just sit my bum on it. So get yourself comfortable. If you need to fidget or move between each of the meditations, or if you need to fidget or move now, then please feel free to do so. Also, these meditation techniques, okay, so if you're like, oh, I don't remember them, they're in a PDF. I think I've got the meditation techniques and the breathing techniques in week 1. So if you wanted to print that out, if you sit at a desk a lot or maybe in your bedroom, you could have that printed and you can refer to it whenever you need it. Okay, so get yourself all comfy, all seated. So the first thing that we're going to do is a meditation using our eyes, okay? So all you're going to do is kind of listen to me and follow my guidance. So I want you to fix your eyes on my eyes, okay? So you're just going to look at my eyes, nowhere else. Okay, focusing on my eyes. And see if you can, just for the next like 10 seconds, stay connected to them. What color are they? Am I wearing makeup? Am I not wearing makeup? Am I blinking? Am I not blinking? So just staying focused with my eyes, okay? And then see if you can just slowly start to soften them, okay? And see if you can start to take in perhaps my eyebrows, maybe the underneaths of my eyes, maybe my cheekbones. And see if you can soften them a little bit more, okay? Soften, soften, soften. See if you can ignore my hands moving and just focus now on the whole circumference of my face. You know that there are other things moving around. There might be something else going on in the room, but your gaze is just fixed on my face. Okay, and now I want you to soften even more. I want you to take in the whole screen. Okay, let your eyes soften even more. Take in the whole screen. Keep softening them. Can you start to take in more of the room? So noticing, but not fixating on one thing. So the eyes are soft. So you can still tell that my face is there, but you couldn't probably tell if my eyes were open or closed. And see if you can start to take in more of the room. Imagine that your peripheral vision is just expanding, expanding, expanding. You're expanding your global awareness here. And it's a choiceless awareness. So you're taking in as much as you can. Blink, don't just keep your eyes open, make sure you blink. And we're practicing seeing rather than directing or looking. So we're just taking things in. We're also eliminating this hierarchy. So we're not choosing to focus on one thing more than the other. We're just letting all of the things be equal. Okay, see if you can just hold this global awareness for the next 10 breaths. Make sure you blink. Okay, this isn't about just keeping the eyes open. I don't want anybody crying tears because they've not been blinking. And just see if you can soften a little bit more. And you will find that your attention and your vision will fixate on one thing. See if you can bring it back. Good. Okay. Shake it out. So that is a style of meditation that you can do. And you're sort of training the brain to just take everything in, eliminate this hierarchy. It also will eliminate some of the emotions that you might be having because you're just taking everything in. Okay. So that's option one. That's like a using your eyes meditation. And the next one's super easy. It's a counting meditation. So it's going to help us focus on one thing. Okay, so slightly different than the eyes. The eyes is like focus on no things. And it's a breath counting technique. So what we're going to do is breathe to 5, and then we're going to breathe back down to 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is inhale for 1, exhale for 2, inhale for 3, exhale for 4, inhale for 5, exhale for 5. And then you just count back down. Okay, so we'll do the first one together. And then I want you to do 5 rounds and just see if you can stay focused on it. So when you're ready, inhale, 1. Exhale, 2. Inhale, 3. Exhale, 4. Inhale, 5. Exhale, 5. Inhale, 4. Exhale, 4. Inhale, 3. Exhale, 3. Exhale, 2, sorry. Inhale, 1. And then on exhale, 5. Good. Okay, so, sorry, back to 1. I'm messing up my own counting. So I just want you to do 2 rounds. See if you can inhale, exhale, count to 5, then back down. I'm going to be quiet, so I'm going to let you do this. Notice when the brain wanders. And all of our breathing will be different. Okay, so don't worry if you finish, just keep going. And if I cut you off in a second and you're not done, it's fine. Good. Okay. So that one's really easy. I mean, I messed it up a lot. But normally when you're counting it without thinking about explaining it, then you can stay focused with it. And actually, the numbers don't so much count. It just matters that you're staying focused. So the next 2 are 2 of my favorites. They have been really helpful for me in lots of ways, in that I fixate and I often have like a comparison, imposter syndrome kind of dialogue going in my head. So this one's called Now What? And I always kind of like feel like I should be doing this when I do this meditation. So it's quite simple. You're just going to simply recognize what's happening now in your brain, and you're going to be okay with it. And you're just going to think to yourself, nah, now what? And if you sit and notice that maybe your ankle's a little bit uncomfortable, recognize it. And then just say, now what? And then maybe moving on to something else, maybe you can hear the sound of a car outside. Okay, I can hear a car. Now what? Oh, my tummy's rumbling. Okay, now what? So I want you to take a moment to just notice what comes up for you. This is going to build cognitive flexibility. So remember what I said about our reality being shook. This really helps with that. This idea that, okay, these things are happening. Now what? What can I do? How can I, move on from it? So simply, all you're going to do, and I'll give us 2 minutes to do this. You're just going to notice the first thing. Okay, it could be a physical sensation, a sort of mental or emotional sensation. And just notice it. And you say, now what?
Good. And then just bringing yourself back. And as we kind of move through these as well, like just take note to yourself, oh, I liked that. Or what? I like completely didn't get that. And, all of this is okay. So the next one is called Fish Tank. And it's very similar to Now What, but it's more visual. And I like the visual element of it because I can get distracted really easily. So let's paint a picture. You have all been shrunk. Okay, you're super tiny, and I am plopping you now all into your separate fish tank. Okay, your fish tank, if you like tropical fish, pop some tropical fish in there. If you like some greenery, pop some greenery in there. I want you to decorate your fish tank. Okay, you can breathe underwater. Wow, amazing. Okay, so you're not freaking out, you're not holding your breath, you're just like chilling, and you're just slowly floating to the bottom of your fish tank. Okay, so you land, maybe you sit on a seashell, maybe you sit on the sandy bottom of the tank, whatever works for you. So now that you're sitting at the bottom, as we have thoughts kind of emerge in our head, you're going to imagine the thought coming out of your head and being placed into a thought bubble, okay? And then that thought is going to release from your brain, and you're just going to sit at the bottom of your fish tank and you're going to watch that thought just gently float to the surface. And as that thought bubble hits the surface where the water and the air meet, it's going to pop and disappear. And then you're just going to slowly bring your mind back down, and you're going to notice the next thought. And as you notice that next thought, you're going to look up to your brain and you're going to be like, whoa, my thought's a bubble. And you're going to watch that thought float and pop. Okay. So hopefully you'll have a bit of fun with this one if you are a visual thinker. So again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes and I just want you to see what thoughts come and just let them float to the surface and pop. And if the thought is, this is stupid, let that thought come into a bubble and let it pop. Okay, so I've made you now human size again, and I've taken you out of your fish tank and you're back in your room. So in those styles, in those meditations, we were focusing on kind of what was happening, okay? This meditation I just call empty. And I find this the most difficult. And it's probably one that I need to spend more time on. And we are trying to create, a sense of quietness or emptiness in our minds. Okay. So this is that real kind of like Buddhist sitting on the cushion, meditating in complete silence. So in the other ones, we noticed thoughts. But in this one, we are turning our attention towards the silence, okay, the empty spaces. We're seeking out the quiet. Now, what's hard is once you find the quiet, trying to stay with that and trying to keep that quiet, trying to like keep the thoughts at bay. And that's why this one can be really frustrating. And you might spend, the whole time that we're practicing this, like bouncing around like crazy and like not finding any silence at all. That's okay. It's the practice. Remember, that's the important bit. So I want you to treat the silence as something that you want to stay with or something that you want to focus on. And you're waiting. Perhaps you just wait. You just wait for that silence. You just wait for that moment and then just recognize it.
And if it disappears in that second, that's okay, because you've recognized that silent moment. So you're turning your attention towards that emptiness rather than content, rather than things. Okay. And you might notice that there's more of it than you thought. Okay. So I'm not really going to tell you anything else. You're just going to close your eyes and you're going to see if you can find any moments of stillness or silence. Nice. Bring yourself back to the room. Good. Okay. So those are 5 techniques. They are self-guided practice. Okay. So I want you to practice those throughout the 8 weeks, and you don't have to spend like ages on it. You could maybe say, okay, every day I'm going to spend 2 minutes on each of them, or I'll spend, this week looking at that one, this week looking at this one. And then within the modules, you're going to have guided meditation practices. Okay. So that's where I'm going to be chatting to you and guiding you through different thought processes, different emptying thought processes. So, do have a little dabble with both. And that's kind of it for tonight. You can print out or just download the PDFs that explain it. I'd love to know what ones you hated, what ones you loved, if you want to share. If you want to just slope off on your evening, that's totally fine as well. And yeah, feel free to chat in the Facebook group as well. Like, as things are going, it's going to help with accountability. The more that we share what's happening, the more it's going to push you to continue to practice. So feel free to unmute yourself, have a little chat, or if you just want to jog on, then you can do that as well.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've been doing, or kind of going in and out of mindfulness for years, absolutely years now. And I've never really understood what is meant by not judging.
I mean, it's just letting it be, isn't it? It's not placing, I mean, it's hard because judging doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I'm being judgy.
No, I know. Yeah, I didn't kind of mean that.
Yeah, it's not placing a value on it. It's not placing a hierarchy on it. It's just noting it. And that's what mindfulness is trying to get you to, is this.
So if you kind of just comes into your head and you think, oh, I must go to the shop tomorrow. Why would you judge that or not judge that? It just is,
Well, I mean, that's being mindful. It just is. So what, I suppose, oh, I need to go to the shop tomorrow. Oh, I have no time. Oh, why isn't my partner going to the shop? Oh, why do I have to do it all the time? Like, that kind of spiral would be like a reason to practice meditation. I need to go to the shop. I need to eat. I need to go to the shop. Like, if that does that help? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. And also, I always lie down, and people always go on about sitting, and I always lie down.
No, I mean, you're working your brain, whether you work your brain on your booty or on your back. Like, as I think people say to sit, because you're taking, for me, if I lay down and practice all the time lying down, I'm going to fall asleep. And it's the conscious decision to make it different than relaxing, I suppose. So you have a meditation pillow. So you could have like a meditation lay down spot. Maybe it's not on a bed. Maybe you roll out your mat and you lie down on your mat, but it's that conscious choice to do it there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? How'd we get on?
Yeah, lay down as well. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there were
a few of you.
You liked it, Pete.
I lay down, so it wasn't like yeah, and I just did it on the mat, so I realized it's different. It's not my bed or a bath or something where I think about just resting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I want to consciously, I just have a bad back. So for me to sit up like this for too long, there's no way I won't think about it. So by being on my back, I'm a bit more comfortable. So that's all. Just
no, that's perfect. There were a few of you lying down as well, so that's great.
Yeah.
Well, Megan, I was just going to ask about the condition of being empty. I mean, it's really hard as you're trying to get there. Things are whizzing in and out, and you're pushing things away. But if you practice, do you get to that spot quickly? And if so, what's that spot like? Is it just like you're feeling so relaxed that there's nothing in there, or?
So in yoga, it's called samadhi, and it's this like complete sense of enlightenment. And I remember when I was in yoga teacher training, I was like, I don't want samadhi. I like having my emotions. So samadhi is like no emotions, no connection, nothing. It's like complete and utter, like almost like a complete disconnect. And I remember like, I don't want that. I like being in love. I like being like a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, not all the time, but that's what it would be, this complete, almost like holiness. You know, you can see the world from above, and, you know, it's, you'd have to really go into the sort of philosophy of yoga and meditation to kind of really look into that. But I think in, you know, what I was talking about, this ability to, all of this stuff is happening. Can I just separate myself from it in the moment and be able to have that autonomy of my brain and disconnect? And yeah, I mean, it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me would be to get rid of a low grumbling anxiety, sometimes non-specific. Sometimes there is something to be anxious about, but even if the things to be anxious about disappear, there's a background level, like just the way I am. So my mind hunts like a raptor. It's looking for something to get anxious about, even when I've nothing to be anxious about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would be terrific if I could get to a point where I could just not bother my ass about, you know, worrying about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. And I really like that comparison of like hunting like a raptor. And it is your brain just trying to attach to like what it thinks. Oh, I'm meant to have this grumble. I'm meant to always be worrying about something. And, you know, you might only get that for 30 seconds here and there for the first year of your practice. But it's, that's what that feels like. That's what that, without the raptor like hissing in the background, that's what it's like. And I think, you know, for all of us during this journey, it's recognizing this is why I want to do this practice. This is the thing that I want to gain some control over, or silence, or be able to coexist with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've realized then, trying to get the mind to empty. I mean, I've, you know, all my life been a real worrier. And I am realizing that I am increasingly able to let that go.
Good.
Pete, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, which is really good.
Yeah. Maybe you should set yourself up, Paul, as a complimentary service to Megan, you know.
Yeah.
If any of you have anxiety, just, you know,
just send it
to me. I'd buy that.
I am.
You can have it anyway. You know that.
Yeah.
Got my number.
Yeah. How did you get on, Rainey?
I have trouble with because I take medication for my anxiety. And so it's like a triple whammy. So it's anxiety, OCD, and depression. So I take medication for that. And sometimes I am constantly overthinking and getting myself into a terrible state. And I can see how the mindfulness helps or would help with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just feel completely blank and empty. And would you
I find that if I try and practice some meditation at that time, then I'm almost forcing myself to have those thoughts again, to get rid of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it sounds like often it sounds like almost there's more of a disconnect happening, and you need to practice that sort of intimacy, that reconnecting. But you're saying like, are you saying like you feel like you're forcing yourself to have those thoughts to then get rid of them?
Yeah. So say, for example, earlier today, I got to the point with how the day was going that I just felt so overwhelmed. I thought either I'm going to cry or I just want to leave my house, or, and I thought I can't take this feeling anymore. And then like when we're sitting doing the meditation, the kids are fed, I'm sitting listening to you, my dog's asleep somewhere, and I couldn't actually think of something that I was worried about. And then I was sitting there thinking, should I be worried about something? Should I be thinking of something that I can then put in my bubble and let it float away?
But this is it. I think when we're doing this, it doesn't need to be those big, horrible, hairy monsters. It's just simply, okay, the thought is, where are my thoughts? The thought is, where's my anxiety? The thought is, whatever it is. And then as you start to practice these things in the moment, when you were like, oh my God, I'm just going to pack a bag, I'm out, I'm like done. That's when you say, okay, I'm going to do the breathing. I'm just going to see if I can get 3 rounds in, 3 rounds. And it's, that kind of practice, hopefully that, in the moment helps. But I completely resonate with the, like, I feel like I'm forcing things to happen. And that's what the practice is about. It's not forcing things to happen. It's just simply recognizing the now, the be, the whatever is. But because we're like, okay, I'm sitting on my pillow, I'm going to do this, that I need to be dealing with the raptor in the background. And sometimes the raptor's hiding.
You wouldn't necessarily save it for, say, I'm going to do 7:30 every morning, I'm going to have my mindfulness time. You would wait for you to have a reason to do it.
Yes and no. I would say make some time to practice, because if you've never done a downward dog and I say to you, no, don't practice downward dog, just wait till someone asks you to do one and pop your butt up into the sky and do a downward dog. Like, you're going to be like, what? I don't know how to do this. So you need to put in the time to practice the skills to then implement them, to recognize when you need them as well. Like, you have to be like, oh shit, I'm really stressed, I should probably do this.
Happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I would set some time, maybe be flexible with it. Okay. Because if the kids are not vibing it, at that time, then, you can do it at a different time, but it is a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Can I make a quick suggestion about something that I don't know if it'll be helpful for anyone else, but I'm a very sensory kind of person. So Megan knows I work in, I do natural perfume. So I know scent is processed in the same part of the brain as emotions and memory, as is music. So sometimes I find what's useful for me is if I want to do any sort of meditation, I'll either wear a specific scent or I'll play a specific song that I then associate with meditating. So I then automatically associate it with stillness and calmness. So the next time I smell it or the next time I hear that song, I'm already in that place without thinking that I have to be. So I don't know if other people have that sort of sensory kind of thing, but if you do, that might work.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, Jackie?
I think that feeds on. Did you say anxiety, depression and OCD, Emma? Yeah, so anxiety and depression typically with anxiety and depression, you get dissociation. And dissociation is where you're feeling overwhelmed or fearful of experiencing emotions because you may not have had a good experience with them. But Megan's right when she says about getting intimate and learning how to do that and just learning to sit with it. And the OCD is simply a coping mechanism for you to manage how you deal with that. It's one of those symptomatic coping mechanisms. And what, I've forgotten your name, sorry.
Rainy.
No, down the bottom. Long dark hair, black t-shirt.
Oh, Daphne.
Jason.
Sorry, that's
Jason.
So, what Jason was saying,
yeah.
senses and such like, that's very right, because all your emotions will show up in your body as well, and they viscerally show up in your body, which means your nervous system is downloading and connecting to your body. So your senses will connect with all of that, but it can be a good experience if you take it slowly. It's just allowing it to.
Well, I'll give you all a laugh. My main OCD fixation, it manifests itself in the tops of bottles. And if I can't get the silver foil off the top of the coffee jar or some kind of vitamin tablets or something like that, then it means somebody's going to die. And I'm just in a complete state. If anybody leaves it like that in the cupboard and they've opened it first and they leave it like that, I have to leave the kitchen. I can't drink it or eat whatever's in that jar if it has the foil.
That's so interesting. Because I do things, well, if I do this and somebody's going to die, or if I think this and somebody's going to die, or something horrible is going to happen to somebody who I really care about. And somebody said, I did some, anyway, the other week it was kind of suggested to me, well, actually thoughts aren't facts. And that really resonated with me, you know. So just because I think something is not fact, and it's really, really simple. It's like stepping on the cracks of the pavement. So do you know what I mean? It's just, those 3 words: thoughts aren't facts.
Yeah.
But they are to you.
Pardon?
They are to you. Trying to stop yourself thinking that that is it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's your reality, isn't it? And your
exactly.
Yeah. I think working on this meditation practice, like and don't even think about it as it's gonna fix this or it's gonna solve that. Just start practicing it and see what happens. I'm loving how much everybody's chatting and sharing, and I'm so excited to kind of see what happens over the next 8 weeks. I want to give you all a challenge that sometime between now and next Tuesday, go into the Facebook group and just chat about how you're getting on with some of those meditations. And share if they've made you frustrated, share if, something has worked, and just kind of let everybody know how you're getting on with them. And yeah, really, really loved today. Hope it was good.
Can I just check before you go? This is an idiot question, but
there's no idiot
questions. Are we meeting every Tuesday and Thursday, or every Thursday or every Tuesday?
Yes, so every Tuesday at 6, and that will tend to be a shorter session where I just kind of go over, right, this week we are looking at this, that, and the other. I think meditation, it's really hard not to make it a short session. But the Tuesday sessions will be maybe looking at poses. You guys can be like, downward dog, I have this happening, help me. And then Thursday is going to be more like an actual class, more like what we do when I do the classes with you on a Friday.
Okay.
And that's the morning class. So that'll be more you guys on mute, me kind of teaching you a class, where Tuesday's more chatty.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions before we hop on, guys?
No, can I have my dinner?
Yeah, go eat, go have whatever you need.
Can you take that bloody toy off our dog?
Is it squeaking in the background? And Peter Wrench, don't think I didn't notice that you didn't feed back. Next Tuesday, I want to hear something from you.
Well, I've just been recovering from trying to meditate while Edgar plays with his squeaking dog.
Take his squeaky dog away from him then. I could hear it.
I wondered who the squeaky culprit was.
Yeah.
It's our dog.
Pete and Paul are in the same house. They're just in different rooms. If anybody's wondering how Paul's hearing a squeaky toy. Right, guys. Have an amazing evening and I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.